on this episode of Jeff Does Vegas.
I was in Crazy Girls for the 10 years, and I wanted to create my own show, Sexy Topless Review. I don't know if you know, Crazy Girls was the first Sexy Topless Review that was in Las Vegas, where the girls are featured, and it's the Crazy Horse style from Paris. It was the first of its kind, and then I just wanted to do my own.
Las Vegas. It's more than just a city. It's a feeling. It's that feeling of excitement when you spot the lights of the Strip out the airplane window. It's that feeling of awe as you stroll down the boulevard, taking in the sights and sounds. And it's that feeling of satisfaction, knowing that you're in the greatest city in the world. Over 42 million people from around the world share that feeling every year. And I'm one of them. Taking you to the world-famous Vegas Strip and beyond, my name is Jeff, and this is Jeff Does Vegas. Hey there, and welcome to episode number 113 of Jeff Does Vegas. Just before we get into this episode of the podcast, I want to thank my guest from the last episode, Todd McCandless of the Parc Ferme podcast. Todd and I had an awesome conversation about Formula One racing coming to Las Vegas in 2023. We talked about the impact the race will have on the city, shared our opinions on the proposed track, and discussed the rising popularity of F1 in the U.S. If you haven't listened as of yet, jump into the archives at jeffdoesvegas.com or search out episode number 112, Lights Out, F1 on the Vegas Strip, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, here we go. On to the show. 2022 marks the 20th anniversary of one of the hottest shows on the Vegas Strip, X Burlesque. Having opened back in 2002 at the Aladdin, the show now calls Bugsy's Cabaret at the Flamingo home. Joining me for this episode of the podcast are Matt and Angela Stabile of Stabile Productions. Matt and Angela are the husband and wife creators and producers of X Burlesque. We talked about their early life in Vegas, with Angela's involvement in several Las Vegas shows and Matt's family managing the career of a comedy legend, the inspiration behind the creation of X Burlesque, and what's led to X Burlesque's longevity in a city that's known for constant change. Please enjoy my conversation with Matt and Angela Stabile.
I'd been vacationing here with my parents, and we saw the show at the then Hilton Hotel, and it was Suzanne Summers. And I have danced my entire life, and I saw the big production, the showgirls, and I thought I can do this. And then I came out to Las Vegas, auditioned for a show at the Hacienda Hotel back in the day, and I got the job, and then I've been here ever since.
Tell us a little bit about some of the shows that you've been involved with in the time that you've been in Vegas. You've been a part of some of the biggest shows in Vegas's history.
Yes. Let's see. So I started, that first show was it was a small show called X Burlesque, and it was at the Hacienda Hotel. And then after that, I auditioned and I was a dancer in the Lido de Paris at the Stardust Hotel, which was... that was awesome. It was, I was a covered dancer. And after that, I actually became pregnant with my son while I was in that show. And so I stopped dancing there, had my son, and then auditioned for Crazy Girls at the Riviera. And then I was there for a little over 10 years.
And you were part of a pretty famous ad campaign as well for that Crazy Girls show. People may not be completely familiar with you, but there's a certain body part of yours that they are probably very familiar with.
Yes.
You were a part of the team involved in the no ifs, ands, or I guess buts would be the next part of that ad campaign. How did that come to be?
Well, actually, the producer had decided to do a new campaign, and he sent myself and my friend Shelly Renee into the studio with the photographer, and there was no direction or anything. He just said, let's see what what we come up with. And her and I did the famous pose of, locking arms and just the backs of us. And he loved that. So he took that idea and ran with it, and had all the girls do it. And then that campaign was born. So.
And for those who may not be completely familiar, there is also a bronze statue of your rear end floating around the city of Las Vegas right now, isn't there?
Yes, as well as the rest of the back of me. But yes, it is my rear end. It was at Planet Hollywood for a while when Crazy Girls was opened. And then since they've closed, I think it's in storage somewhere. But I'm the third one, if you're facing the statue, third one from the right. And
the shiniest butt.
Yes, I was just going to say that. I have the shiniest one. Because they said back in the day that if you rub the cheeks, that brought you good luck. So there you go.
So you are apparently we'll bestow upon you the title of the luckiest derriere in Las Vegas.
Yes, I think that fits. Yeah.
Yep.
And Matt, you yourself, you are no slouch when it comes to the world of Las Vegas. Your family had some pretty serious involvement in entertainment history in Las Vegas.
Yes. My family managed Jerry Lewis, the entertainer, for most of his career. And I grew up in that side of the business, as well as television and theatrical production, since I was a kid.
So growing up in an environment like that, I mean, I can only imagine, was Jerry Lewis, if your family is managing Jerry Lewis, I would imagine he's a family friend. I mean, is he coming and hanging around the house and spending holidays with you guys?
Yes. Yep. They lived about 3 houses down in our neighborhood here in Las Vegas. And he would frequently come over or just pop by, and we had family dinners a lot with him. And Sammy Davis Jr. would come over when he was in town and touring with him. And he always loved my mom's cooking, and Shecky Green, and lots of different Rat Pack type stars from that back in that day would frequently visit our home for dinners and hang out. And we'd also hang out with them in their dressing rooms when Jerry was performing, like at the Sahara or some of the older hotels. We would, spend a jaunt of time there and just hang out with them. It was fun. It was a lot of fun, a lot of good memories.
Looking back on that now, I would imagine it's somewhat mind-blowing when you think about Jerry Lewis and Sammy Davis Jr. and Shecky Green just coming over to the house and hanging around and enjoying mom's cooking. At the time, I'm guessing that just kind of seemed, quote unquote, normal.
Right. It's funny you said, because we just had a gathering with an old friend of mine, and he was just telling a story about him meeting Jerry for the first time. And because he kind of grew up in a little impoverished neighborhood, and what an awe it was for him to meet him in person. And I know it did kind of, we never took it for granted, but we were around it, like you said, so often. It didn't really make a difference to us much as time went on. But when I did bring friends over and they met those people for the first time or were around them, they were definitely surprised, in awe.
And so what kind of an influence did having Jerry Lewis in your life in that capacity have on the direction that you took in your career?
Well, I'm also a director of photography and editor. That's actually how Angela and I met. But he used to have an edit bay back in his storage room. It was off the garage. It was all air conditioned and everything. And I would go over there and he would sit with me when I'd edit, and he'd give me, advice on things. Because I'm not sure if you knew, but he edited most of all of his films on film at the time. Mm-hmm. And I also shot him a lot of times for the MDA. I would shoot videos for the MDA with him in his house. So it was kind of a comfortable relationship as far as the tech side went. Mm-hmm. And he did teach me a lot of things. Lighting, he would say, that doesn't look right. That's, moving around. And like I said, he did help me a lot with edit notes as well on projects that I would work on over there.
That's wild. I mean, I can't imagine having the ability to have somebody like that helping you, putting together projects and working with you. I mean, I spent so many years, close to 20 years working in radio. So, I mean, for me, that would almost be like having somebody like a Howard Stern or a Ryan Seacrest being able to sort of mentor me and bring me up through the radio business. So I can't even imagine the impact that had on you.
Yeah. I wish I had more experiences with him in his younger days when he did all of his films. But I wasn't. He was much older than me, so I didn't really get to experience much of that. But definitely the time that I was with him, I learned a lot of different things, and he was just the coolest guy to hang around, man. He was very knowledgeable, and he was great on a set, and he was just a great guy.
You alluded to it a little bit earlier about yourself and Angela and how the two of you met. Let's talk a little bit about that. How did the two of you get together? Was it love at first sight? Did sparks fly? Was it an instant connection? Let's talk about that. Let's share that story.
Angela, you take it over.
Oh boy. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So
it's a fun story.
Yeah, I was, this is the very beginning of the X show, and it was called X, An Erotic Adventure. And it was at the Aladdin Hotel, and now Planet Hollywood, but back then the Aladdin. And I had sold my show to be able to do it there. And they hired Matt and his company to produce our commercial. So that's how we met. The Aladdin brought in Stabile Productions to do the first commercial for the X show. So, and we met, and really the rest was history. So
then she was all
we got
over
together. Me. Yeah. No, he's a very lucky guy. Yeah. But yeah, so that's how we met. And then oddly enough, so we did that commercial at the Aladdin, and then 20 years later, because we're celebrating our 20-year anniversary with X Burlesque, we decided to recreate that commercial, and we did. We'll have to send that to you just so you can see it. It's we recreated the first original commercial that we ever did 20 years ago on the same stage.
Coming up, Angela tells us what inspired her to create X Burlesque, and the couple shares some of the challenges they've faced over their 2 decades in Vegas. That's next on Jeff Does Vegas. Angela, I want to talk a little bit about the history of X Burlesque and dive a bit into the background of the creation of it. What inspired you to create your own production and move on from being a part of other productions?
Well, I was in Crazy Girls for the 10 years, and I always said it's like going to college to become a producer, or, I was a dancer in the show. I helped with the advertising. I would always get different celebrities to come and see the show for publicity. And I just knew I could do it. And I wanted to create my own show, Sexy Topless Review. I don't know if you know, Crazy Girls was the first Sexy Topless Review that was in Las Vegas, where the girls are featured, and it's, the crazy horse style from Paris. Mm-hmm. It was the first of its kind. And then I just wanted to do my own and do things differently, also than Crazy Girls. So I was lucky enough to be able to get the opportunity to do it at the Aladdin.
Tell me about the creative process in putting together X Burlesque. I would imagine that you were able to take some of the elements of shows that you'd previously been a part of and put them into your own show, or were you looking to do something entirely new, completely different from what's been done before?
Well, I really don't think anyone does create something that has never been done before. But since it's a burlesque style show, then, we would have the champagne glass, or, the traditional items in burlesque that people expect to see. And then, yes, put my own twist on it. And also the music choices, editing, we added video, which a lot of shows didn't have at that time when Matt came in. So, we definitely put our own twist on it.
Las Vegas is the entertainment capital of the world. I mean, there are hundreds of shows up and down the Vegas Strip each and every day. What is it that makes X Burlesque stand out and stand apart from not only the other review shows in Las Vegas, but the other shows in general?
Well, one thing, people feel like they have a license, or it's one of the, let's say, bucket list items that they want to do in Vegas. Like, for instance, you know, the couple from whatever, Iowa, let's say, necessarily wouldn't go see a topless review in Iowa, but you're in Las Vegas. So it's the thing to do. And it's been that, you know, tradition since the 50s. To make it stand out also, we, for an X girl, they have to be able to dance. A lot of the other burlesque shows don't necessarily feature the type of, you know, full-on dancing that X Burlesque does.
2022 is a huge year for you guys. It's the 20th anniversary of X Burlesque, which is absolutely outstanding, a huge achievement for any show, let alone a Vegas show where shows seem to come and go all the time. Over the course of those 2 decades that you guys have been producing this show, what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced over that time?
Mr. Stabile? Yeah, let's see.
Well, I mean, we haven't encountered too many huge challenges because the show, we're proud to say that it's a really good show. You know, a lot of producers come to town and they expect that they'll dump $500,000 into their marketing. And the truth be known, and I'm giving out a good secret here, is if the actual show is not good and the production quality is not good, people are not going to recommend it. And the biggest sales for any ticketing show is word of mouth. And we have been fortunate from day one where people, you know, 9 times out of 10 will leave and say, wow, that's an awesome show. We get great reviews and people talk about it. So have we had any huge hurdles? Yeah, we've had, you know, instances with dancers. We've had big tech issues, but, you know, nothing to where it was something we couldn't get over, though.
Right. We've learned a lot over the 20 years, you know, as we go along.
Of course, we can't give out all those secrets, but if you're asking us how we've maintained 20 years, it's definitely been a learning curve and figuring out what things work and what things don't.
And obviously, I mean, one of the biggest obstacles that you guys and every other show in Las Vegas faced was COVID-19 with the shutdown and trying to figure out ways to reopen and be within the guidelines. But you guys were actually quite revolutionary and front runners in figuring that out and managing to get yourselves back up and running.
X Country was the very first show that reopened after COVID. And I always say that it was like I took it as a game show challenge, if you will. So, you know, you get all these regulations. It's like, okay, well, how do we make this work? And we did it. We had to be 25 feet from the stage, the first audience member. They had to be 6 feet apart, each group of audience members. The cast and crew had to be masked the entire time. But we were able, for instance, to find clear masks for the dancers. So, you know, after the initial shock of seeing the mask on stage, the audience didn't really notice that. So everything, you know, seemed to work. And
you guys were quite instrumental and at the forefront as well in pushing the government to move ahead with reopening shows in the city. Knowing what I know about the entertainment community in Las Vegas, I'm assuming you guys had the support of pretty much everybody in the community.
We did. We actually came up with an idea to do a petition. And I forget now how many signatures. We received so many signatures. Everyone got behind it. Yeah. Sent it to the governor's office.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy that you guys made it through, and I'm happy that here we are. Things are getting back to normal. People are able to get out to shows and enjoy them the way they used to. And you guys are celebrating your 20th anniversary, which is fantastic. X Burlesque plays at Bugsy's Cabaret inside the legendary Flamingo. Matt, Angela, thank you very, very much for taking time to jump on and chat with me about the show. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay. Scott. Talk to you later.
X Burlesque currently runs 5 nights a week, Thursday through Monday, with 2 shows nightly at Bugsy's Cabaret in the legendary Flamingo, Las Vegas. For more info, including tickets and showtimes, visit flamingolasvegas.com. And be sure to follow X Burlesque on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at X Burlesque. Of course, you can find all these links in the show notes at jeffdoesvegas.com. And that
wraps up another episode of Jeff Does Vegas. If you've got feedback on this episode of the show, or any other episode for that matter, or you've got suggestions and ideas for topics you'd like me to cover on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to me via Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Jeff Does Vegas, or drop me an email directly at jeff@jeffdoesvegas.com. In the meantime, thank you so much for checking out the show. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you'll know the moment new episodes are available. And don't forget to visit jeffdoesvegas.com for past episodes and show notes. My name is Jeff, and this has been Jeff Does Vegas, a Walker New Media production.